Thank you. Okay, our next speaker in this group is Nicole Wright, also an assistant professor in accounting.
Okay. All right. So as Emery said, my name's Nicole Wright. I'm brand spanking new, so this is a little daunting having all the experienced hires do theirs first because they have all this literature they've already had published or in the process of it. So I don't have as much of that. So I actually decided to focus on one paper to go over mainly what I am trying to look at, and it's very similar to what Brian actually looks at. I'm looking at judgment decision-making within an accounting context, and I focus mainly right now on auditors because I have prior experience as an auditor, so I know that, and I come from that realm. So the paper I was going to talk to you guys about is understanding how auditors use formal advice that's given to them by an internal subject matter expert, and how that impacts the awareness of whether they know they're going to get that advice, and then also that quality of that advice that they are given. So the motivation for this paper is, as we know in business, everything is getting much, much more complex. And because of that, the core audit team doesn't necessarily have all that expertise within itself. So they need to call in experts in order to make sure that they're looking at everything appropriately, that the client is accounting for things appropriately. So we've seen calls from that from the regulators and from the firms themselves. The concern you have, though, is all these problems that are out there, all these situations that are out there are very specific to the client, to the industry. So in that instance, that core audit team who works with those client on a continuous basis, they fully understand the situation, the industry, the client, so they can ensure that all the key facts and all the recommendations that are given to them by management match up to what the expert is giving. So they know that the assumptions are being used. So the regulators expect the auditors to be combing through that. Even though that information is coming from an expert, they still need to make sure they understand what's happening with that. And the worry, of course, is if an expert gives you low quality information and you use that and rely on that within the audit, could you come to an inappropriate decision? Thus, of course, leading to financial statements that could be inappropriate and so on and so forth. So my big research question is, why could this possibly be happening where auditors aren't doing the appropriate work around information that's coming from experts? Could it possibly be something like whether or not they know they're going to be getting that information from experts? And then, of course, how quality impacts that as well. So the way I looked at this was an actual experiment where I varied awareness, whether they knew ahead of time or not that they were actually going to be using an expert. And of course, I varied the quality. So whether or not those experts used all the key facts that were given to them to come to their resolution. It was based around a complex revenue recognition issue, which is always a high topic within business. So what we actually found was that the group that was aware prior to even working on the issue spent more time, put in forth more effort to understand the issue, and therefore could actually determine whether or not that expert used all that information they should have. So they were able to identify lower quality information coming from that expert. So that, in turn, comes back to accounting firms to where if they can plan for that use of an expert, let everybody know on that audit team that, hey, we're going to be bringing somebody in, they can put forth that effort and really understand what's going on and therefore do the proper assessment and hopefully lead to accurate decisions versus not coming up with the accurate decisions. So I also looked at accuracy to see, and as you can see, the higher quality, anybody that was given the higher quality was more accurate. So just so you know, the way this looks is the accuracy score, anything closest to 0 is the most accurate. So anybody that was given high quality, everybody was accurate pretty much, which is what you would expect. The trouble comes into play if they're given low quality. So if that expert is using maybe something that's not all completely there or the assumption isn't quite right, and you can see that those that were unaware, that didn't know that they were going to actually have that expert come on play, didn't put forth that effort, couldn't identify that there was a problem with that advice, and therefore they relied on it, and unfortunately they came to an inaccurate decision. So obviously kind of an issue there that we would want to know more about and maybe how to actually fix that type of issue. So that, of course, leads to some of the implications. You know, where can we look at more information coming from experts and making sure that we're doing that assessment as appropriate. Understanding the interaction between a core audit team and the experts is obviously a branch off of this. And of course, trying to find how can we make this better? What can we do to get auditors to do all that assessment that they need to do? Regardless of whether or not they're told up front that an expert's coming on, we still want everybody to put forth that effort and really understand what's going on. So like I said, this is just one example. I have lots of projects going forth, mainly in the realm of the auditors and trying to make audit quality better, and hopefully go from there. So, thank you.